some films entertain you, Training Day haunts you. From the moment Alonzo Harris slides into that Monte Carlo and locks eyes with his rookie partner, you already know something is wrong. Today, we're diving into 17 revelations about this modern classic. Jaw-dropping behind-the-scenes moments, hidden threads buried deep in the screenplay, and one bonus fact at the very end that might change the way you see Denzel Washington's greatest performance forever. The list starts now. Number 1. Born from a real scandal. What if the movie you loved wasn't just inspired by the real world? What if reality itself was running ahead of the script? Screenwriter David Ayer didn't invent the corruption at the heart of Training Day. He documented it. Back in 1995, Ayer drew directly from mounting rumors about the LAPD's anti-gang task forces. He had grown up in the very neighborhoods depicted in the film. And that personal knowledge gave the screenplay an authenticity no research trip could manufacture. When the Rampart scandal exploded publicly in the late 1990s, officers stealing drugs from evidence lockers, planting weapons on suspects, covering up shootings. It didn't just validate what Ayer had written. It made the script feel prophetic. Warner Brothers, suddenly aware this wasn't just a crime drama, but a ripped-from-the-headlines exposé, greenlit the project with new urgency. Training Day wasn't inspired by a scandal. It was waiting for one to catch up with it. Number 2. The original Alonzo and Jake. Picture this alternate universe. Samuel L. Jackson squares off against Matt Damon in a Los Angeles thriller directed by Davis Guggenheim as a scrappy indie production. That was the original plan for Training Day. A perfectly valid version of the film, just not the one that shook the world. Everything changed the moment Denzel Washington decided he wanted to be Alonzo Harris. Washington didn't just sign on and show up. He took ownership of the project with the confidence of someone who already knew how the film would end up. Most strikingly, he personally requested that Guggenheim be replaced, and his replacement of choice was Antoine Fuqua, a filmmaker he believed had the visual instincts the story demanded. It was a bold move, but it worked. Fuqua brought a raw, kinetic energy that gave the film its bruised, lived-in feeling. Without Denzel's intervention, Training Day might have been a respectable indie. Because of it, the film became a cultural landmark. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3, Eminem almost played Jake. Here's a name you never expected to hear: Marshall Mathers. Before Ethan Hawke ever climbed into that Monte Carlo looking wide-eyed and terrified, Eminem was offered the role of Jake Hoyt. Yes, Slim Shady himself was in the running to be Denzel Washington's rookie partner, a prospect that would have given the film a completely different energy. Eminem passed because he was already preparing for his acting debut in 8 Mile, which hit theaters just a year later. But he wasn't the only surprising name in the mix. Tobey Maguire, Paul Walker, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ryan Phillip, and Scott Speedman all auditioned before Ethan Hawke locked it down. Each would have brought a different dynamic to the Jake and Alonzo relationship. Hawke's anxious intelligence, that nervous energy barely holding itself together, turned out to be exactly what the film needed. But for a while, the role was anybody's game. Number 4. Tobey Maguire's deep commitment. Of all the actors who came close to landing Jake Hoyt, none committed as fully as Tobey Maguire. He didn't just audition, he embedded himself in the world of the film for 2 full months. Maguire rode along with actual undercover narcotics officers, studying their body language, their rhythms, the way they held space in dangerous situations. He even gained weight to look the part. By most accounts, he was genuinely close. But when Ethan Hawke's schedule opened up, Fuqua went with his original first instinct, and Maguire was out. The timing must have stung after that level of dedication. Just 1 year later, though, Maguire would put on a very different kind of costume, the red and blue suit of Peter Parker in Spider-Man. His Hollywood path bent in a direction nobody could have predicted, from a casting call for a gritty LA crime drama. Number 5. Filming in gang territory. Antoine Fuqua made a decision early in production that most Hollywood directors would never seriously consider. He was going to shoot Training Day in the actual neighborhoods it depicted, even the ones where film crews had never been allowed before. He didn't want the film to look like a Hollywood set. He wanted it to feel dangerous, because it genuinely was. Fuqua secured permission from local gang leaders to shoot inside the Imperial Courts housing projects in Watts, a first for any major studio production. Real gang members were cast as extras and appeared in key scenes, most visibly in the climactic standoff near the film's end. When Denzel Washington arrived on location, crowds gathered not like fans watching a movie star, but like residents watching someone they recognized. Every day of that shoot was an exercise in controlled danger, and that tension bleeds directly into every frame of the finished film. Number 6. A gray area on purpose. Director Fuqua always pushed back against readings of Training Day as a simple good versus evil story. In his view, both Jake and Alonzo exist in morally complicated territory. Jake is broadly honorable, but his ambition makes him willing to compromise himself, especially under the magnetic pull of Alonzo's charisma. He wants to make detective. He wants to be accepted. That wanting makes him vulnerable. And Alonzo, in Fuqua's telling, wasn't born corrupt. He was once a good cop whose exceptional effectiveness at working the criminal underworld slowly made him indistinguishable from the people he was supposed to fight. That's not a simple villain arc. That's a tragedy. The film forces the audience to sit with uncomfortable questions about power, moral compromise, and how gradual the slide from right to wrong can be. That complexity is what elevates Training Day from a crime thriller into something that stays with you. Number 7. Snoop, Dree, and Macy Gray. Training Day has a supporting cast packed with unexpected faces, but none more striking than its roster of West Coast music legends. Snoop Dogg appears as Blue, a wheelchair-bound drug dealer whose scene carries real menace. Dr. Dre plays Paul, one of Alonzo's corrupt narcotics squad associates. Macy Gray shows up as a drug dealer's wife whose home gets raided in one of the film's most tense sequences. All three were already massive cultural figures, and their presence gave Training Day a layer of street credibility that felt earned rather than manufactured. And there's another blink and you'll miss it gem worth spotting. Raymond Cruz, who plays the gang member Sniper, would later become one of television's most unforgettable characters. The unhinged cartel enforcer Tuco Salamanca in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. In 2001, he was just a face in the crowd. By 2008, the whole world knew that face. Number 8. Riding along with real cops. The authenticity of Training Day didn't arrive by accident. Both Washington and Hawke went far beyond standard research. Hawke spent time riding along with active LAPD officers on patrol, observing how narcotics detectives moved through the city, talked to suspects, and related to each other in unguarded moments. Both actors also met with undercover officers, local drug dealers, and gang members off-camera. The production brought on 2 real LAPD officers, Michael Patterson and Paul Lozada, as technical advisors for the entire shoot. Their job wasn't just to make police procedures look accurate. It was to make the psychological dynamics feel true. That investment paid off in ways audiences could sense without being able to articulate. There's something about the performances in Training Day that doesn't feel performed. It feels observed. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next, with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. The phone call you missed. David Ayer's screenplay is loaded with details that only reveal themselves on repeat viewings, and this one is particularly chilling. Shortly after Alonzo executes Roger, he retreats to his car and makes a brief, almost throwaway phone call. The line is casual, almost mundane. "Yeah, just make sure that bathtub is clean, homie." On first viewing, it lands as ambient detail. But later in the film, when Jake narrowly escapes being killed in a bathtub at Smiley's house, the retrospective weight of that call becomes genuinely unsettling. Alonzo wasn't making small talk. He was giving Smiley his instructions. The murder attempt on Jake had been set in motion well before anyone, the audience included, had any idea. That single line transforms from background noise into one of the screenplay's most elegant pieces of architecture. It makes every rewatch feel fresh. Number 10. The King Kong scene was almost lost. Here's a fact that will make film lovers anxious. The King Kong scene, the monologue most critics cite as the centerpiece of Washington's Oscar-winning performance, was captured in a single take, one shot. No coverage, no safety net. And that take was slightly out of focus. The flaw was real and visible to everyone in the room. Fuqua seriously considered cutting the scene, but his editor made the case that the performance was so electrically alive that no audience would ever notice the soft focus. They'd be too busy watching Denzel. He was right. The scene became one of the most quoted moments in cinema history. Real gang members on set told Fuqua afterward, "This is a hit." Even they knew something legendary had just been captured. Number 11. Alonzo's car was a character. The 1979 Monte Carlo that Alonzo drives wasn't selected at random. It was a deliberate storytelling choice by the production design team, who understood that every visual element had to carry symbolic weight. The car's battered, worn-down appearance communicated Alonzo's deep roots in the street culture he claims to control, while its old-school swagger spoke to a mentality that hadn't evolved with the world around him. What makes the Monte Carlo genuinely brilliant is that it deteriorates in real time alongside its owner. Over the course of the film, the car accumulates damage, scratches, bullet holes, a shattered windshield, in direct parallel with Alonzo's unraveling grip on power. By the final act, both the car and the man inside it are beyond saving. Fans have long recognized the Monte Carlo as practically a third lead in the movie. Every dent told a story. Every scar was earned. Number 12. Terry Crews before the fame. Before Terry Crews became an action star, a comedy legend, and the face of Old Spice's most memorable campaigns, he had a small, blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameo in Training Day near the end of the film. At the time, almost nobody in the audience would have noticed him. But looking back now, there's something genuinely fun about watching one of Hollywood's most beloved personalities hiding in plain sight in one of the decade's grittiest crime films. It's a reminder that even the biggest stars have to start somewhere, sometimes in the background of someone else's story, waiting for their moment to arrive. Number 13. Denzel became Rafael Perez. Denzel Washington didn't construct Alonzo Harris from imagination alone. He built the character on a foundation of real, documented corruption. Rafael Perez was an LAPD narcotics officer at the center of the Rampart scandal, caught stealing cocaine from evidence lockers, and implicated in wrongdoing that eventually brought down dozens of fellow officers. Washington studied Perez in detail and even grew a specific goatee to physically resemble him. But what Washington was really after wasn't a physical resemblance. It was a psychological one. Fuqua wanted Alonzo to feel like a product of a system, not a rogue individual. Washington understood that completely. He later described Alonzo as someone who had done his job too well, a cop who'd spent so long learning to think, manipulate, and survive like a criminal that somewhere along the way, he became one. That's not a villain. That's a cautionary tale. Quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I didn't mention? Let's build the list together. Number 14. The iconic diner has a secret. The diner where Jake first meets Alonzo at the beginning of Training Day is a real Los Angeles landmark, a place called the Quality Cafe. It's the kind of worn, unpretentious diner that looks like it's been serving the same breakfast since 1962, which is exactly why filmmakers kept coming back to it. But the Training Day connection is just one chapter in its cinematic career. That same diner appeared in David Fincher's Seven. And if you watch both films closely, you'll notice strikingly similar camera angles, including a close-up of a cook cracking eggs on a hot stove. The Quality Cafe also showed up in Gone in 60 Seconds. 3 films, 3 different worlds, one unassuming diner pulling quiet duty in each of them. Sadly, it has since permanently closed, joining the long list of LA locations that exist now only in the films that captured them. Number 15. Speaking Spanish to his son. There's a scene in Training Day that operates at a completely different emotional frequency from everything surrounding it. When Alonzo visits his mistress Sarah, played by Eva Mendes, he kneels down to speak with his young son entirely in Spanish. The words are achingly tender. "How are you, son? Are you being good? You're growing up, handsome man. Don't cry. Listen to your daddy." It's the only moment in the entire film where Alonzo's armor comes completely off. Washington delivers the Spanish lines with such warmth that for a few seconds you forget who this man actually is. That dissonance is precisely the point. The scene isn't there to redeem Alonzo. It's there to make him more frightening. A monster with a capacity for genuine tenderness is infinitely more dangerous than one who is simply monstrous. Number 16. The poker scene trick. One of Training Day's most quietly brilliant production decisions happened off-camera and entirely without Ethan Hawke's knowledge. The scene. Jake sits nervously with Smiley and his gang while waiting for Alonzo to arrive. The tension in that scene is unmistakable in a way that good acting alone doesn't fully explain. That's because Fuqua secretly told the actors playing the gang members to improvise freely and behave unpredictably, without warning Hawke. Every strange comment, every unexpected move, every threatening ambiguity was genuinely unscripted from Hawke's perspective. His anxiety, his micro-expressions, his visible uncertainty, all completely real. Fuqua understood that cinematic tension comes from real uncertainty, not performed uncertainty, so he manufactured real uncertainty on set. The result is one of the most authentically anxious scenes in the film, engineered through deliberate deception. Number 17. The scene the studio wanted to kill. Warner Brothers and Fuqua went to war over a single scene, and the outcome of that battle determined whether Training Day was great or merely good. The scene involves Alonzo meeting with 3 high-ranking officials, the 3 wise men, at a restaurant. Studio executives argued it slowed the pacing and should be cut. Fuqua disagreed with force. Without that scene, Alonzo is just a rogue cop. With it, he becomes something far more disturbing, a symptom of a system. It proves that his behavior isn't anomalous. It's sanctioned. The corruption doesn't live in one man. It lives in the institution, all the way to the top. That's the difference between a crime drama and an indictment. Fuqua won, the scene stayed, and Training Day became the kind of film that sparks conversations rather than simply ending them. Almost at the end. And the best is still coming. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Bonus fact: The line that won the Oscar was never in the script. This is the one I've been building toward. The most iconic line in Training Day, arguably one of the most iconic lines in all of cinema, was never written. It didn't exist in David Ayer's screenplay. The original script had Alonzo raging during the final confrontation with lines like, "I'll burn this down and walk away. See what happens." Solid lines, but not legendary. Then Washington stepped in front of the camera and something primal took over. He started ranting, threatening, spiraling. And out came those words that would echo through pop culture for decades. Fuqua was so stunned he whispered to his cameraman that he hoped they'd captured it, because he didn't think they'd ever get it again. When the take ended, Washington walked off exhausted and said he didn't even know where it came from. Washington later estimated that 30 to 40% of his entire performance was improvised. That single unscripted moment, nearly out of focus, in a scene that almost got cut, became the defining image of the film, the centerpiece of his Oscar campaign, and one of cinema's most electrifying acts of pure creative instinct. That's not just a fact, that's a legend. And those were 17 strange facts about Training Day, plus one bonus that proves the most iconic moments in cinema often arrive unplanned and impossible to manufacture on purpose. 25 years later, this film still hits just as hard. It still sparks debates about power, corruption, and the institutions we trust. It's still one of the greatest performances ever put on film. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which facts surprised you the most. Suggest another movie that deserves a list of strange facts. I read every single one. See you in the next video.